gonna walk up to you. Hey, Riddick. I was talking to Johns, and he said that he saw you. You're gonna stab me in the sweet spot, but then you stopped, and then instead you cut off some of my hair, and you smelled it. Can you?
Uh,
Can you?
uh,
How do you? Is that? Should I be weirded out?
mm, Sweet spot, left of the spine, fourth lumbar down, the abdominal aorta. Blood's a coppery taste. I
Well,
used to be a bouncer at the tunnel in Manhattan. Did you know that?
well, you're not answering my question, Riddick. I mean, you cut my hair and you smelled it. I like that piece of
I
hair.
know. I know that when the lights go out and the killing starts, little family of ours is gonna fall apart.
Are
Mm,
you avoiding this? Are you?
uh, the badge, the blue-eyed devil, Johns. Yeah. Street Sharks! Buy the toy! Street Sharks! Yeah. I like hair.
I'm out of here. That reminded me of
The
a
cutting edge.
that reminded me of a
What
like
it
the
remind-
like a boss sketch from Lonely Island where he's like, "Did you say that you do this?" Nah, that's
But
not
I did
me.
though.
Yeah.
The cutting hair thing was a totally weird flex. It was a totally weird flex. But that's absolutely a hint and a half that, oh, by the way, he could have murdered them both,
Yeah.
but he didn't. He
Sweet
didn't.
spot.
So maybe we need to calm down. And they talk about the sweet spot a lot in this movie.
A lot of
And
sweet spot.
I never knew that the left of the spine, fourth lumbar down, is the abdominal aorta, and that blood has a coppery taste. But you can cut it with schnapps. Like what? He's trying. He's trying to freak her out. But like you said, she's not shook by anything. You
No.
know,
I
she's
would
not
like to see a Carolyn Fry prequel because anybody that's that kind of anybody that
jaded.
yeah that's just willing to unleash everybody at a moment's notice. I want
Yeah,
that.
man.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
she's talking like Fry or I'm sorry, Johns is this murderer and she calls him gutless lean meat. Like she's assassin
Yo,
everybody. She goes into the tunnels by herself to look for monsters. Like she does not care. Like she's a
she's
maniac.
incredibly, yeah, she's incredibly ballsy.
Yeah.
And then, and then, and then, so, okay, her accent kind of wavers as well, back and forth, whatever. Every once in a while, she gets a little Australian. There are so many Australians in this movie. Did you know that?
Well, they shot there.
I was not aware.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
They shot in the desert in the winter because that's the only place
Jesus.
that they could stretch their $25 million budget that they had.
Mm.
Like they could have shot in LA, but they would have had two sets and Vin Diesel walking around trees. It would have been called like, they landed on Endor and there's
Right.
monsters there. But yeah, yeah, they went to the Aussie, Radha Mitchell. I mean, the cinematographer David Egby, he shot Mad Max, like
It's a beautiful movie, too.
yeah,
It's
oh dude,
beautiful
yeah,
to look
David Egby's cinematographer. The production designer is Graham Walker. He worked on Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. He actually did all the Walking Dead
at.
episodes, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, big Australian
Nice.
cast, and like they have decent studios out there. And one of the reasons why I bought the Blu-ray is I wanted to watch the behind the scenes footage, and they built some legit sets for this. And also
Did
listening
they?
to the commentaries where it was, what's interesting? Like I wish I hadn't have listened to the commentary because David Twohy, he's just complaining because in the beginning he's like, I didn't want to show a spaceship. He's like, I just wanted to like cut inside when everyone's freaking out and like you don't know where they are. But test audiences were like, well, I don't know what's happening. So he's like, I had to add a spaceship in there. And how long was that? That spaceship was like 75 seconds. And he spent about 15 minutes complaining about adding a spaceship in there. And then meanwhile, you had the visual effects coordinators talking about the bleach process that they did for this film, which it's kind of
Yes.
what's really neat, Norbert, is there was and there's this another Australian film that shot and they shot without they didn't do like the bleach process and so they shot it with all the lighting expecting the footage to
Hmm.
be bleached and then the producer went
Hmm.
no. So then they released the movie and it just looked insane because it didn't go through the bleaching process. But on this one they did it immediately so that no one could be like, hey, like 2/3 of the way through, hey, this isn't working. Like, yo, like 66% of our footage is bleached. Like, get over yourself. And I'm not talking about dumping it in bleach. It's a lot more
I know
intense
what you
than
mean.
that. But
Yeah.
they actually did it to the negative, which is bonkers.
Wow.
But yeah,
This
I mean,
movie,
it's a good looking movie, man. And like, but
it is.
he kept complaining about like, oh well, there's three moons, so that person should be backlit by blue, but their face should be red because that moon. And then it was interesting listening to Vin Diesel and Cole Hauser and David Twohy talk. And Vin's like, a Universal logo, that's awesome. Like, we're doing that. And he's like, when Cole and I were fighting, we wanted to be like two cobras. And so they're saying that like when rewatch their fight, it's like two cobras striking at each other. There's not many strikes, but when they do, it has a purpose. And
Sure.
of course they zoom in on the eyes. Like people love Cole Hauser's eyes. John Singleton in Too Fast Too Furious, and then this one they do a good, the bad, and the ugly. Sergio Leone close up of their eyes right before the fight.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yes.
But yeah, those commentaries, they're just like, oh, that day was hot. And Cole Hauser's like, yeah, there's like kangaroos and dust, and he's like, I went a little insane, but I guess it was good. And I don't know, the commentaries weren't. I don't know, man. They weren't great. I liked all the talk about miniatures and how they blended everything together. But the David Twohy guy was just complaining a lot. And I was like, come on, man.
Well, I mean, you're expecting audio gold from the guy who wrote Critters 2, man. And I don't care who the director is of Critters 2. That's not going to be a good movie. Because Critters is not supposed to have 6 parts, bro, but it does.
Man.
Okay? Critters is supposed to start and end with Critters 1.
Is Critters 2 the one where the critter gets scalped in the
Probably.
diner with a bounty hunter?
What does it matter? You know what I mean? What does it matter? Kill Christ. The bounty hunter who decides to change their shape because they saw a Playboy magazine and then included the stapler when they're body changing. Dude, you made Critters 2. Shut up.
And
I don't care what this guy says.
And I give him respect because he did make a really good A plus B movie. But it was just interesting. Like whenever Paul W.S. Anderson does a commentary, he's just so full of life, and you can tell he loves every facet of filmmaking. But Twohy definitely complains a lot. I was like, come on, man. I want to know about the bleach process. I want to know about the aliens. They said the aliens are they call them bioraptors, and they're a blending of great white sharks, pterodactyls, and lions. That's
whatever. They have the xenomorph head and teeth, bro. Get out of here.
Patrick Tatopoulos, the guy who did the Underworld movies. He's the one
and the 98 Godzilla.
That's right. He's the one who did the concept design for these creatures.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty cool looking, man. And
they are, yes.
Yeah. And this movie was a relative success. It wasn't huge. But I think the trailer was a big reason for that. And I do specifically remember when he takes the whiskey and blows it out and all the creatures are surrounding him. When they're running with their lights and they're surrounded by the creatures. And sorry to be crude, but when Carolyn Fry's crawling into the cave. But I remember the trailer they cut with Riddick just being cool and pointing and jumping into the van. That was a good trailer, man. That was
it was.
This is yeah. And what did you message me the other day when I said I was jazzed for this? You said this is kind of like an A plus B movie.
It is absolutely an A plus B movie. It's clearly a B movie. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it resonates is the same reason why, for example, just quick off topic, this is why Peacemaker is so good. Because you have these guys who work in just the crappy part of Hollywood, When you're making Critters 2, okay, this is, to you, that's a stepping stone. That's not the end. That's just, I got to work my way up through the system. But you learn how to craft a story. You learn how to make characters. James Gunn, he worked with Troma, so they made the Toxic Avenger and all of that stuff. And once they gave him a budget for the Suicide Squad, and once they gave him a budget for Peacemaker, he's still doing all of that crazy B-movie stuff, all the gore,
grimy,
all the curse, all the gore, all the cursing, the boobs and whatnot. But now he's got the money to really flesh out ideas and things like that. This is where it is. This is how it goes. Absolutely. So certain movie people, you give them time, you give them space, you give them freedom, they'll make gold. And even though that guy made Critters 2, this movie still holds up. It's so good. It's so good.
I think a lot of it's practical based, and I also like that you brought up Peacemaker because John Cena's Vin Diesel's brother.
Yeah, basically.
In F9.
That's right. In the Fast and Furious 12 or whatever.
No, F9, the Fast Saga.
F9.
You know what I love though? Tyrese goes to space and he eats a bunch of candy bars, and then the candy bar wrappers float around in space. That's the best part of that movie. Tyrese in that movie going, are we indestructible? He's still the soul of that franchise. Oh man, I love him. All right, a total tangent, but how do you feel about Peacemaker where they're you are a murderer, but it's okay because you're nice and your dad was a jerk? It seems very simple, doesn't it?
That's well, the same thing. Same thing with Riddick. Apparently he grew up in a trash can,
Yeah.
but he grew up in a trash can, and maybe he was arrested for ripping the tag off a mattress, and that put him in a slam. But dudes, everybody has a chance for redemption, man. On a long enough timeline, you can go from being the worst bad guy to a good guy. So yeah, it's a tale as old as time. Frankenstein, he's a monster made up of multiple corpses. But friend, eventually he just chills out. Give
Like,
people time, and they'll come around.
yeah, it just didn't feel like it blended well. I get it. I like what you're saying.
And you know what they did, and it's kind of under the radar, right? So when Fry is checking the escape ship, the hull, to try to make sure that there are no holes in the hull, Riddick is given all the backstory of how Johns starts to chase him around, and how Johns might not actually be a good dude, and ask him why his hand shakes so much, and why your friend had to die in so much pain. And then the next cut, it says hull integrity 100%. It's like he's got integrity. He's got class. He's not actually a liar. He's a murderer, but he's not lying to you about anything. And he never lies throughout this whole movie, for what it's worth.
This is wild. I never thought about the monsters under the surface, and they come out at dark,
Tell
like
me,
most of the people. And this is it's almost like Verhoeven-esque, because, the most popular Movies, Films, and Flicks episode ever is Total Recall. And I think Verhoeven's, I'm not comparing Twohy to Verhoeven, but I
Yeah.
think Verhoeven's the king of movies like Starship Troopers, where there's blood and guts and nudity, but then there's also like that fascism element. Or Total Recall. There's some actually pretty great themes in there about, is this real, is it not? Recently, Benedetta came out. Like he knows how to blend like highbrow with lowbrow. And then,
Right.
it's funny, man, watching Pitch Black all these years, I never was like, oh, these things are under the surface, when at night the monsters come out every 22 years. Like, it's like the werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. And then you kind of talk about that when the whole integrity 100%. Like, that
Yeah.
Twohy wrote a good script here. It's kind of interesting.
He did.
But what's really interesting is that for me, I've always just looked at this movie as a really good creature feature. And so I don't think when they said whole integrity 100% or they come out at night, I was thinking about that, because I was just too busy enjoying the creature feature of it all. But it kind of changes the way you look at it a little bit. I'm not saying that's interesting. I just never gave those themes a chance because I was just too busy enjoying the creature feature of it. But that's an interesting point that you brought up.
It's not something that you catch the first time around. The movie stands up to multiple viewings. All right. And there's a lot in this movie that, will pass you by if on the first time, because like you say, the monsters are cool. The story's cool. There's not a bad actor in the bunch, but at the same time, he never lies. He's a murderer. Absolutely. And he's definitely murdered people.
He smells hair.
But yeah, he shaves with engine grease. He's definitely an oddball.
He would wear Jinkos.
Dude, he probably invented Jinkos, 100%. Why does he have this particular, he grows his hair out in the next movie, handsome guy with a beard,
Mm-hmm.
This guy, just a weirdo.
That's a good point.
But a murderer, not a liar.
He has a code.
Not a liar. There is a code. Exactly. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. He's a code. He's got a code.
Like, he'll steal from you, but he won't kill you. Like, he'll steal your car, but he'll give you money for a cab ride home.
Right. Even at the end, he's opening. I'm sorry. At the end of the movie, he gets into the ship and he's flipping his switches and he's pulling his levers and he's about to leave. But you can tell that he's thinking. Okay, he breaks the lights for sure. But he's still thinking, gee, maybe I kind of should go back for these people. Mm-hmm. And when Fry shows up in front of the ship, he doesn't just blast off. He opens it. He's not that terrible. He's a murderer, yeah, but he wants to at least engage Fry one more time. Why don't you come with me? Mm-hmm. I got a better idea. Also, he's probably Wolverine.
Whoa, yeah. I do like the relationship between him and Fry, though. Like, he does respect her. I find that to be interesting, and that's a credit to Radha Mitchell too, because she holds her own next to Diesel and Cole Hauser, who I mean, listen, you know what I like about Cole Hauser? He gives this movie an energy. Like you could tell he fought for everything of his character.